So before we go ahead, let me introduce you our author and speaker for today, Mr. Viju B. Mr. Viju B is the author of the award-winning book, Flood and Fury. He is the assistant resident editor of Times of India, Kochi. While working in Mumbai for various national newspapers, he covered the catastrophic 26/7 Mumbai floods and 26/11 terror attack and the Gujarat riots. He has been publishing various reports on the issue at the intersection of development with ecology and culture. He will be in conversation with Dr. Madhu Verma. Dr. Madhu Verma is an environmental economist presently working as a chief economist at WRI India. She has worked extensively on the economic valuation and green accounting of economy with ecosystem, biodiversity, ecosystem and economy modeling, tiger, snow leopard, habitat valuation, forest, physical federalism and payment for ecosystem services. Now talking about the book which shall be discussed today consists the documentation on large-scale mining, quarrying, deforestation and mismanagement of water resources in the Western Ghat region, and also mapped it micro, histories, culture and environment. So let's start our discussion. Let them initiate with a great round of applause.
Good afternoon, everybody, and this is a kind of a continuation of a session that we have just had immediately after lunch about Tamil Nadu floods. This talks more about, Kerala floods and how do these floods get affected. They come into being because of the tempering of the entire catchment which provide water to the reservoir, where Kerala is one of the recipients of such waters from those catchments. Well, Kerala is God's own country, and it's full of mountains, hills, backwaters, rivers. UNESCO's heritage site, repository of biodiversity, variety of resources are available. And hearing about floods in Kerala sounds very, very unusual thing to happen. So my first question goes to Viju is, tell us more about Kerala floods. How did these floods happen in Kerala?
Thank you, Madhu. You put it very, very bluntly that Kerala, once upon a time, Kerala used to be called as a God's own country. But unfortunately, it's not like that any longer. In 2018, we had Kerala floods. 14 districts in Kerala had floods, apart from the coastal district of Alappuzha. 14 districts were ravaged by floods and landslides. So Kerala always was seen as a very safe haven. If you look at, we always thought that North Indian states like where you had Himalayas, they used to have lots of landslides, and on the eastern side you had this Bay of Bengal, east like Orissa and all those areas, you had cyclones. But Kerala always had a very, very, very safe and secular kind of. Kerala always used to be very safe, partly because we had the Western Ghats on one side, and we had the Arabian Sea, the Placid Arabian Sea, if you want to call it like that. But it's not like that any longer. There is a serious ecological crisis which is happening all along the western coast, right from Kerala up till Gujarat. So, as Madhu was saying, 2018 Kerala floods was a rude awakening for all of us. So, as part of reporting for the Times of India, I traveled through all these ecologically sensitive zones and was trying to find out what has happened. I mean, I was trying to probe. So, meanwhile, in Kerala, as you know, Kerala is allowed to debate a lot. And on TV, there was this raging debate happening on why the floods and landslides are occurring. So, they were giving two reasons. One reason, of course, was given by the state government. The government said that the flood, of course, is a once in a 100-year phenomenon. Don't worry, you are all safe. Nothing is going to happen. So, that was one. But that didn't happen. In 2019, we had landslides in Malabar, in Puttumala and Kavalapara. And in 2019 and 2020, we had landslides in Idiki. In 2021, last year too, we had landslides. So there's been a series of landslides in the last 4 years. So that argument by the state government has been completely demolished. Then the second argument they gave was there was incessant rains, I mean, unprecedented rainfall. Between August 14 and August 16, we had around 900 millimeters of rainfall, which is obviously a high amount of rainfall, and that led to floods. That was another reason. So this was the argument given by the government. Now the opposition's contention was that there was a delay in opening the shutters of the dam. Now in Kerala we have around 53 dams, and obviously out of the 53 dams, around half of the dams are used for power generation. So obviously for summer we actually hold water, and and we need to conserve water for power generation. So there is a delay in opening the shutters of the dam. So this was a broad contention, two contentions given by the state government and the opposition. But my investigation as I travel along the Western Ghats, first in Kerala and up till Maharashtra, was that the floods and landslides in Kerala occurred because of the ecological devastation which is occurring in the Western Ghats. Western Ghats, I don't know how many of you are aware of the ecology of the Western Ghats. I'll talk a bit about Western Ghats. The Western Ghats is one of the oldest ecosystems today in the world. I mean, it's much older than the Himalayas. It's much older than the Indian civilization. It's 120 million years old. And it is our Amazon forest. I would call it. It's our Amazon forest. It's a green lungs, last remaining green lungs of the country. And you have around 1,000 flowering plants, thousands of species of trees, hundreds and hundreds of species of mammals and reptiles, and it's so rich. And more than that, we have 58 rivers flowing down from the Western Ghat region. And all your big cities, be it Mumbai, be it Chennai, be it Bangalore, be it Panjim, be it Kochi, all your big cities get water supply from these 58 rivers. I mean, if you don't have Western Ghats, 1/4 of the population of this country will die of starvation and death. I mean, there won't be water. So I always feel that Western Ghats is our real mother. This word Western Ghats, Madhu, this Western Ghats is a very colonial word. It was invented by the Britishers, because Britishers came to India to exploit our natural resources. They came to the Ghats and they sort of started cutting the forest. They started taking over the tribal lands, and they had plantations and what you call they sort of harvested crops like pepper and coffee, which is pepper is known as black gold. And they exported, and lots of forest land was converted. So the Britishers have this tendency to tame the wild, as I call it. They actually, it's a very exploitative kind of concept. But earlier, before the Britishers came, the Western Ghats had a different name in our mythology, which is called Sahyadri.
Yeah.
It's in Sanskrit.
Very true.
Yeah, and Sahyadri means benevolent mountains. I mean, it's truly our benevolent mountains. I mean, in fact, the resident poet of Madhya Pradesh, Kalidasa, in fact, described the Sahyadri as a beautiful woman, and the head belonged to Kerala, and the torso belonged to Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, and the fertile feet belonged to Maharashtra and Gujarat. It is beautiful imagery. So in my book, in fact, I would like to sort of extend this imagery and see this beautiful woman has this beautiful green zones as forests, and this blue veins that goes through her are the rivers. So what happens when you sort of clog these blue veins? There is going to be hemorrhages. This is precisely what happened. There were multiple hemorrhages which is occurring in this region, and that was the reasons for the floods to occur.
It's been so happening, whenever we talk about such areas, repository of biodiversity, such rich in terms of forest and rivers, you always look upon Himalayas and northern-based, ecosystems. We don't talk much about Western Ghats.
Very true. I mean, it's extremely sad because Western Ghats is not part of our curriculum. You don't read about Western Ghats. I mean, it's one of the oldest ecosystems in the world. You read about North Indian rivers. You read about Himalayas, but it's extremely sad. And if you look at civilization in this part of the country began. If for example, there was a Pamba River Valley civilization Apparently, people from Rome and Greece came to Pamba,
Definitely.
and you had civilization. And in fact, most of the seers, for example, Adi Shankara, Agastya, and Tukaram, Srinarayana Guru, all of them went to the Western Ghats, went up the hill and listened to the music of nature and found enlightenment.
But we don't get to
Nothing
hear
of
these
this sort.
stories,
We don't hear.
connects with
So,
Western
as I
Ghats,
was telling Madhu, the problem with our environmental conservation programs, I mean, brilliant, we need all those kind of acts. We were talking about the Wetland Conservation Act. We need wetland. But the problem is, because being a writer, I'm a very emotional person. And I think all of you are a very emotional person. If you can't connect with nature, if the communities can't connect with nature,
Exactly.
it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't hold any value. So first of all, I don't know. I mean, this needs to be discussed properly.
Definitely, like I also worked alongside the entire mountains of India and the Himalayas more than the Western Ghats. I didn't get a chance to work much about.
You had worked in
these.
Periyar Tiger Reserve.
Yeah, but I did come down to to work on Periyar. I was about to say that. So I mean, I live in Delhi now, so we know Himalayan ranges as the water towers of the country. But Western Ghats are also water towers with down south
That's true.
cities. It's not being highlighted at all, and we could make a connect now that if you don't conserve these upstream areas, these water towers will not survive.
That's true.
And what it leads to in terms of your entire journey across different places, in Kerala to see. Like Bhopal also we had floods. You would never have heard about a city like Bhopal, where we had such wonderful natural terrain to protect us from these, impacts of nature. We still had suffered, floods a couple of years ago. So what I'm just trying to connect here with, I mean, how it goes wrong, why it goes wrong, whether it in terms of policies, in terms of some programs, in terms of institutional mechanisms. Like we had a lot of discussion regarding wetlands in the last session. You were surprised, like in Delhi, where I am heading a committee, I was just trying to mention, we have 1,040 wetlands in Delhi district. Can you imagine
My
this?
God, yeah.
But not even a single wetland in the entire country is being notified. One was somehow, but not exactly notified.
Yeah.
So this is to be done first, because unless
God,
until
no,
ownership is
seriously.
being established, you cannot, think in terms of managing the area, developing plans and implementing, fetching funds for that, involving communities who are actually dependent so much on these wetlands and can provide back to this.
In fact, I need to add.
Isn't it connect, wrong policies? Because lots of examples, one can see example from Malaysia, which is a very true case in India as well. A reservoir, a dam was built, and a reservoir is required, to provide for definitely generation of electricity. And you are sitting in a life of, reservoir, Rukesh is sitting here who works on EIA kind of analysis being done. But when you create a reservoir, you move the communities to some areas. So they in Malaysia, they were moved to the upstream areas, to the catchment of dam. So dam which actually have had life of 300 years, which was projected, finished in 30 years' time. So this is kind of, policy connect is very weak in our country, similarly institutional mechanisms. So what did you feel alongside your journey, and what made you write this book? Because you experienced many things, and as I said yesterday in Aparna's book also, it reads like a textbook. It reads like a collection of case studies. So empirical evidences are being provided for these case studies to understand the entire link very, very well. You connect better when you have language of numbers, which is my job as an economist to throw numbers in front of the policymakers, those sort of stakeholders. So what made you write this book, and what kind of case studies you collected? While each case study is so intriguing, so interesting, gives you great idea about, the issues, problems, strengths as well, and we can take the thread forward. So
very true. You put it perfectly. The narrative of the book, of course, is basically, it is data driven, as you said. But then data is not enough. To hold the book, you need a narrative. To hold the book, you need a narrative. The narrative, of course, is it's written in a very travelogue kind of easy, simple manner. And as you said, there are lots of human interest stories. There are positive stories. There are negative stories. But again, I would say the book is not just about ecology. It's about cultures. It's about microcultures. It's about water management. It's about individual individual lone rangers who sort of conserve the environment. So for example, in Idiki, there is this in Periyar Tiger Reserve. There is a guy called Kunyumon, who was a hunter. He used to kill bisons, and he used to trade in ganja and all those, and then he's turned into a conservation activist, and he's part of the forest department. There are far too few examples of positive stories, but then. So as you were asking about this policy, this black and policy. See, the problem again is like, first thing that we need to understand is all our rivers have been encroached. That's a major problem. Now, for example, in the book I have mentioned, there is a dam called Cherutoni Dam in Idiki. It's part of this huge Idiki Dam. Now, the Cherutoni River was dammed to build the Cherutoni Dam. And the Cherutoni River became non-existent. So when the Cherutoni Dam the water just rose, and they had to open the shutters of the dam. In fact, there was no river on the river, but we had Cherutoni Township coming up. We had bus stands. Exactly. We had playgrounds. We had shopping complexes. So when the shutters were opened, the river took away the entire township. You mean to say we make our own assumptions regarding? Yeah. So there is no room for river. I mean, the first thing that we need to do is we need to have room. For every river in Kerala today has been encroached. Definitely. So, for example, now again, my favorite subject is about culture. I'll talk about Sabrimala. Now, I don't know how many of you know Sabrimala temple is one of the wealthiest temples in the country. It's on the banks of the Pamba River. Now, Sabrimala, the Lord Ayyappa is known to be the forest deity. I mean, the whole idea of going to Sabrimala is to go trek up the Nili mountains of the Western Ghats, and it's beautiful. During my childhood, I've gone to Sabrimala. And as you go to Sabrimala, you can see this Pamba River, and you have to take a holy dip in Pamba. And Pamba River, once upon 30-40 years back, used to be so pure, and you could actually see prehistoric pebbles. Today, the Pamba River flows like a black drain. Sewage of the lakhs of devotees are being dumped into Pamba River. And you're going to a religious place. You want to take a holy dip over there. The whole concept of spirituality, that's what I was trying to say about culture and spirituality. The whole concept, because Indian civilization always thought that nature is supreme, and we are one with nature. I mean, Prakriti Rakshado Rakshati. I mean, if you sort of preserve nature, you'll be protected by nature. All those things are there. But then spirituality today has turned into a commercial enterprise. The Sabrimala temple today earns, the Travancore Devasam board. Sabrimala temple is run by the Kerala government of Kerala's Travancore Devasam board. They earn around 200 crore annually, the revenue. I'm saying don't spend 100 crore. Don't spend 50 crore, at least spend 20 crore or 10 crore to clean up the Pamba River. So this is a problem. I mean, there is no political will to sort of clean up Pamba River. Even today, post-floods, we don't in Kerala and Karnataka, Karnataka at least has done something. In Kerala, you don't know where are the landslides going to happen next. You need to do a landslide impact study in the first place. That has not been done. You need to mark the flood-prone areas. That has not been done.
I also heard about, when the festivals happen in Sabrimala temple, there's so much such huge populations go inside the temple that despite being in the middle of forest, this shrine, they feel strangulated. And since I worked across Periyar Tiger Reserve, didn't get a chance to visit Sabrimala, of course, it's on the other end of the Tiger Reserve. The park director tells us that we have to put oxygen kiosk in these, Tiger Reserve, in this area, because people have to breathe well, otherwise they will get strangulated. So not just the water in the Pamba River is strangulated, and it is so polluted, because it is such high content of, dissolved oxygen, which is taken away, because biological oxygen demand is very, very high.
It's 159. Same thing happens in the human population. Biological oxygen demand is 159.
Yeah. So this is very, very strange. And if you go across the country, most of these national parks, tiger reserves, have a deity, have a temple. I think one should treat it as a sacred forest, sacred groves, and should look after them well, but it's not happening. And that's what, led to the question of, we have lots of examples across the globe. In India also, Tamirbani River, which is in one of the tiger reserves, the moment it dried up over the years because the entire catchment was denuded. But the time it was declared as a tiger reserve, in due course of time rather, when it got a highest conservation status, the river started flowing, and not just it flows today or for a week or for a few months, it flows perennially. And it provides a lot of support to the downstream populations. And 600 tiger reserves provide 600 rivers actually to the country, tributaries or the large rivers. This is a kind of connect we need to make. What do you think? Do we have to convey to all sorts of stakeholders about this kind of connect? Like we have a good example of Yellowstone National Park as well, where when the wolves were introduced, you were able to revive the old stream, which is now continuously flowing, and the ecosystem is being revived now. So the same kind of, intervention which you would have experienced. So I want you to share with us interesting examples of, first of all, Periyar Tiger Reserve, where the so-called poachers which you talked about became saviors of the forest. Even I did a night walk with those people only. And they have the best idea about the diversity of forest, can show you the best wildlife, flora and fauna as well. So just want to share about
Yeah,
the
in
Periyar
fact-
model, which is world known for its, conservation efforts, world known for its, ecotourism efforts. So just, throw some light
Yeah,
on
in
that.
fact, that's a very valid point that she said. In fact, the tribals of Periyar, there is a tribal community called Urali Tribes. Now, Urali Tribes actually stay inside the forest, and the forest department during early 90s, they tried to bring in, they actually gave land, Forest Right Act, under the Forest Right Act, they gave land and they started cultivating millets, but that didn't succeed. But last 10 years, they have been cultivating organic pepper, and you won't imagine and it's huge demand in European countries, and so every family of tribals in Vanjivayal are earning around 4 to 5 lakhs a year. I mean, Vanjivayal is a beautiful example of how you can sort of conserve. And interestingly, since they're doing organic pepper farming right inside the Periyar Tiger Reserve, there was not a single landslides there, because because if to have pepper, cultivation of pepper, you need to have a humid climate, you need to have greenery, you need to have water. So this is a very, I mean, you have examples. You need to only, what you need to do, you need to sort of properly link up all these small examples. And also we need to, I mean, time has come to have a new kind of development and model. I mean, that is the most important thing, I think, because you can't go on like this. You can't go. So, for example, in Kerala, the government of Kerala today, on an average, there are 6 quarries in every panchayat. I mean, they have given. I mean, if you from 150 meters from a residential locality, you can have a quarry today. I mean, it's. I mean, even in ecologically sensitive zones, you have quarries. So the problem with quarries, it's not only that they bring in landslides. The problem with quarries is, wherever the quarries are, you have substreams and streams originating,
exactly.
and all the streams are gone.
Exactly.
And you know how you must be, since you are an environmental researcher and an expert, you know, to a stream to originate, how many years does it take, isn't it?
So what just brings me to the kind of work that I had been doing, and it connects so well to the work that you are doing, is to also understand in totality every ecosystem that we're talking about. Just look at the apparent values, the visible ones which are coming out. Maybe querying, we thought it's the only benefit we get from these areas, but the whole set of benefits in terms of production of water, which talked about greatly, conservation of soil, definitely these forests do. They sequester carbon. We talk so much about it, the international platforms on sequestration of carbon, these carbon credits we talk about, nutrient cycling, pollination services, gone from these regions. Many crops are failing because forests have been destroyed, they have shrunk, and the habitat of pollinators is gone. So there's a strong connect, and this brings me to interesting, another very eye-opener, chapter in your book, talk about Wayanad. Kerala's, heaven turns into hell. So just throw some light on
So
this.
Wayanad, I don't know how many have been visited to Wayanad. Wayanad is a beautiful, great. So Wayanad is this beautiful place, better than Munnar, I would say. It was, but today Wayanad, the wildlife, I mean, the maximum number of man-animal conflicts are happening in Wayanad. That is because all the wildlife corridors over there have been fragmented.
Exactly.
Between 1950 to 1980, 1,000 square miles of Wayanad, forests in Wayanad have been completely denuded. You don't have, the animals can't cross over. And now you have this huge debate. There's a petition in the High Court which speaks about opening up the Bandipur highway. So, and Wayanad, if you go to Wayanad, Wayanad used to have 6, in fact, most regions in Kerala used to have 6 different kinds of rains. I don't know.
That sounds very interesting.
6 different kinds
of rains. Which
and because you need moist kind of rain. So you have the summer rains. In fact, I can read a bit about that. Yeah. So, and all the rains are, this is my book.
Like once we had a discussion on types of tigers. There's a pink tiger, there's a blue tiger, there's a normal tiger that you see here. So interesting to understand variety of rains as well, which Kerala is having. So we talk about a normal rain.
So all these rains are connected with the Malayalam months, the harvest months. So there's this tribal called Raman. He speaks about this rains. So Kerala had 6 different types of rains till recently. Each came with a distinct sound, pace, color, and even smell. The rains have names starting with the names of Malayalam months. It began with Kumbha Mala, the summer rains in February that cleared the dirt in the atmosphere. Then came the Meda Mala or Vishu Mala. Vishu, as you know, is the festival in April, which was short and brisk. But this rain makes the parched land ready for farming. Tuber crops like yam and colocasia were planted. At the beginning of Edavapadi again, it begins in May and June. The southwest monsoon arrives. The paddy fields are said to be irrigated. The Midhuna Mala, the August rain, brings copious rainfall, and as the plains get flooded and the groundwater levels are replenished. The Chinga Mala, the September rains, is soft and fun-loving, and the rain plays hide and seek, drizzling even in the sunshine. The Tula Mala in October, which is a northeast monsoon, is accompanied by heavy thunderstorms. So we have 6 different kinds of rains. But this rain pattern has been completely gone today. I mean, that is a classic impact of the climate change. In fact, there is a very interesting study which I have mentioned. It's done by 2 researchers called Danish Kumar and Srinath. What they're saying is the moderate amount of rainfall in Wayanad has completely gone. Now what we are seeing is heavy rainfall, and either you will have heavy rainfall or you won't have rainfall. So intense rainfall, the pattern of intense rainfall is increasing across Western Ghats. I mean, that is the reason. I mean, you have 120 centimeters of rainfall. So that is the reason for the one of the reasons for the ecological. So this is going to happen again and again. So what do you do now? The only thing is to sort of have your green zones rejuvenated, isn't it?
Definitely.
But that's true.
This is the era of what we call as nature-based solutions. You know, we talk so much about some very cost-effective, close to nature kind of interventions which we can make by conserving nature. We always think nature versus development. It's not so. Conservation and development are two mutually reinforcing entities. And increase the volume of this mic. Yeah, definitely. तो ये जो हमारा डिकेड है यूएन का रेस्टोरेशन का डिकेड है जो कि इतना डिग्रेडेशन हो गया है केरला में वेस्टर्न घाट्स रादर मैं आपसे वो भी कहूंगी कि आप अपनी कुर्ग की स्टोरी हम लोग सब कुर्ग की कॉफी अननोइंगली कैफे कॉफी डे में जाके पीते हैं जो कि एक बायोडाइवर्सिटी रिच कॉफी होती है शेड ग्रोन कॉफी होती है क्योंकि पेड़ों के नीचे उगती है और इतनी डाइवर्सिटी के साथ उगती है. अगर आप बाहर किसी देश में जाएं, आई हैड अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग केस कॉल्ड दिस सर्विंग बायोडाइवर्सिटी इन अ कॉफी कप. It's a Brazilian brand of coffee, which is a biodiversity-rich coffee, grown alongside a huge number of species. It has a very interesting aroma and flavor and texture. So it's very, very popular. Premiumly priced coffee. Similarly, there's a cloud forest coffee in Mexico. You never think about all these aspects because these, as you rightly talked about communities, ये सारी कम्युनिटीज एंगेज्ड है सारा काम करने में. कुदागू जो कुर्ग रीजन है, लंबानी कम्युनिटीज एंगेज्ड इन ग्रोइंग दिस वैरायटी ऑफ कॉफी. उन्हें कोई बेनिफिट नहीं मिलता. आप 200 रुपए दे करके 250 रुपए दे के एक कैपुचिनो पीकर आते हैं कैफे कॉफी डे में. नाउ वी हैव स्टारबक्स, वी हैव many other brands available. Never think about how we pay back to these communities. उनके बॉक्स के ऊपर भी पूरा स्टोरी डिस्क्राइब है, बट आई डोंट नो हाउ दिस रीचेस बैक टू द कम्युनिटी. सो ये एक एग्जांपल है. So what is happening in these regions now and what kind of problems, this is a part of Western Ghat, they are facing lots of challenges. दूसरा मैं आपसे केस चाहूंगी discuss about Goa. It is ecological, great ecological disaster.
That's
so
very true. You said it, Madhu,
right.
because I've traveled extensively through Goa. Now Goa, most of you must have gone to Goa. Goa is always about party circuits and sun-drenched beaches and all those. 25 kilometers up, you go to the Ghats. It's all gone. Especially North Goa. North Goa, there is a taluk called Bicholim. Bicholim is known as a mining belt of Goa. Village after village today there is no water. The Shah Commission report in 2012 said that 35,000 crore worth of illegal worth of revenue has been done because of illegal mining. So, and I mean it's so sad. I mean Goa used to once upon a time Goa used to be such a lovely place. And if someone says that there is you can do sustainable mining, you should go to Goa and see. There is, I mean, every well, the well water has all turned toxic. So you can't do, you can't, there is no drinking water. I mean, you can, and now what has happened is they've stopped mining in Goa. Because it's so bad, you only have pits over there, and as you pass from village to village, you can see all those trucks lying there. And during the mining era, the youngsters used to get lots of money because they used to make lakhs, 1 lakh, 2 lakh per month because you take the ore, which is a raw material. They used to make a lot of money, but today they don't have work. You can see. I mean, there is this famous book by John Steinbeck called Grape of Wrath. I don't know. It's a similar scene if you go to Goa today, if you go to North Goa. So, and the sad part, the unfortunate part is 90% of this ore is not for India. It goes to China. It's not for India. Imagine. And of course, in the pockets of the politician. So, and Goa is, mark my words, Goa is going to face a major ecological disaster in the coming years. Because there is a lot of saltwater intrusion happening, and something major is going to happen in Goa. Yeah.
I'm sorry, speakers, but please keep the time limit in mind. We have already exceeded our given time limit, so please wrap up fast.
So, what solutions you see? I mean, how can you avoid 2018 to happen in future? What's required to be done? What kind of safety systems, mechanisms
I see.
Frankly, placed,
Frankly, I don't trust the governments, neither the center nor the state government, because ultimately the communities should react. That's only hope now. That's only hope. Communities, because now in Kerala, I'll make it very short. Kerala, there is a project coming up called the K-Rail project, the speed rail project, which is basically which will cut through the wetlands of Kerala, and you can go from one end of Kerala to the other within 4 to 5 hours. I mean, so 10,000 buildings are getting displaced. I mean, entire wetlands will be you'll have an embankment coming up. I mean, so and people are going to lose their lands. So the government has decided, and government has already started putting they've started putting survey stones. Now there is a huge agitation happening in Kerala, and people have come out on streets, and slowly now the government is backing off. So this is the only way. I mean, the communities have to react. The communities, and also I think
people like us who actually do scientific analysis, bring data to the platter
it should come out in the open. Correct.
क्योंकि जो मेरा भी experience रहा है ये, जो भी भाषा आप समझाइए लोगों को, सरकार को, definitely the policy makers को आप समझाइए, textual information दीजिए, ऐसी stories बताइए, वो इतना dent नहीं उनका होता है जब कोई number बताते हैं उनको कि इसके करने से इतना loss होगा, इतना benefit होगा, और they connect it definitely well when these numbers are put in front of them.
Very true.
The kind of work that you are doing, the kind of work we also try to do, visiting these places, interacting with the whole set of stakeholders, especially communities, because
and once you place a number to the government will react. It's very important.
My own experience of working with Ministry of Finance and Finance Commission and Ministry of Environment and Forest, I mean, initially जब मैं जाती थी सब मुझ पे हंसते थे, किस तरह के numbers की बात कर रही हैं आप? ऐसा कहीं होता है क्या? हमने कार्बन की प्राइस देना शुरू किया, जो कार्बन सिक्वेस्टर होता है पेड़ों के द्वारा, और कोविड ने हमको ऑक्सीजन की वैल्यू बहुत अच्छी समझा दी. अगर हमने पेड़ नहीं लगाए, ऑक्सीजन नहीं प्रोड्यूस की, तो हम नहीं बचेंगे. We were to pay any price. I lived in Delhi when first wave happened. I mean, I knew at what price these oxygen cylinders were sold. अब कोई पानी पीना छोड़ देगा, लेकिन ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर नहीं छोड़ सकता था, क्योंकि उसके बिना आपकी जिंदगी नहीं थी. I think that kind of connect is required to be made. We may need to make our scientific knowledge very simple, to be presented to a whole set of people in a simple language, maybe small briefs. We write books, very good to read the entire book, but I would request you as well, which I said to Aparna also,
probably
to
it should be translated into Hindi and vernacular languages.
और आप इसके briefs बनाइए.
I'm sorry, speakers,
page,
but
kind of.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, speakers, but we have run out of time.
So just 1 or 2 pages of knowledge will definitely take much, your book much further, and so helpful to people to follow
Thanks,
instructions, suggestions given by you, and take them forward.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Okay, that's it.
Now I would like to invite Dr. Meera Das and the very charismatic.
You can always come outside and talk to the author about the inquiries that you have for the book. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the audience? All right. So, Dr. Meera Das, please.
So, this is a wonderful book that you just written. You must have picked it up from the...
There is another session.